Testing. 1, 2. Welcome back. Michael Wickerson here, working for a variety of online sources, mostly open source for everyone, but we'll continue with this project of looking at the ribbon tools in Grasshopper. As you can see, this script section is under the Sets tab and going into sequences, and it's a little bit of a break from our last video, which was dealing with the special node path mapper, which we'll get to more complex for the third time later. But sets and sequence is a wonderful tool, and there's a couple things in there, and I think it's interesting that the sequence node is good, but nothing beats the power of the series and range components, in my opinion, in Grasshopper for generating data. And that's exactly what we're doing here, is generating data, not so much needing the Rhino environment to take a look at what we're creating, because we're not taking that data into any geometries yet, like this line length, radii, distances, and things like that. But it is important to think computationally and think what your data is actually doing to derive it. So down below, I believe I did jump in the Fibonacci series. I'm looking at pi through a range, and looking through the golden ratio as a range, because those are actually tucked into this section as interesting nodes to play with numbers. And they're quite beautiful. You can't really beat them. You can't really create them on your own. They exist, and we've discovered them, so have some fun with them. Once again, when you bring in a script from the master script, it's a little smaller, I would recommend. You'll see I have it blue because I actually enjoy it, but if you ungroup it, you can then go back and group it a color that recognizes that you've had a time to look at it. So I've got a series component next to a range component. They're very similar, except the series is going to want to start, step, and a count, and a range component is going to want a domain, which has a start and an end, and then has a step count to that. And what's interesting is you'll pull out 10 digits from a 10 count in the range, but you only pull out, well, you pull out 9 because we start counting at 0, 9 pieces of data, 10 pieces of data from the 10 count in the series, and you pull out 11 pieces of data in the range. And that's just something really to remember. It's a subtlety that gets you working in the expression node and gets you working with a little bit of math in a very, you'll see people doing it all the time in Grasshopper, and you'll misunderstand why they're doing it, but it really is this breakdown and dividing what's happening here. So try and wrap your head around why those numbers come out. I do like the jitter node in here, because you can take your data 0 through 9, and you just blast it, and you can see that differently and watch that kind of jump and change as we go. The range component is very nice, and you'll see what's happening here is I've actually gone and set a number for actually the random within the range. I've set a number of randoms that I want to select, and then I put that through a seeded random function. So random and jitter go hand in hand, but they do different things to the data. So I want you to go in there, play a little bit with the seed, and see how those actually change up what's happening. You will notice that the numbers within here will range through that number and the count number that you've put in. And then I've put on a random reduce, which is nice. You can take a list. You can say I want a reduction of 12, a seed that's adjusting, but a reduction of 4 numbers from that, and it's randomly reducing 4 from that. As we see, you'll see the output of that, and I'm looking over in this panel tool to see that. Be very careful pulling data out of panel tools. If it's not number-based, you can actually find it defaults and it doesn't work. So I sometimes reserve Control-Shift all this data to plug in here and just keep this off to the side. I try not to make a habit of doing exactly what I've done here twice, so I'm just going to grab that data, slide it in here, and leave this one up here. Don't like getting in the habit of that, and of course the script, I use terrible examples of doing what I just said don't do. The duplicate data is nice because you can kind of understand that data as you roll through of what's coming out, and that data itself, which was running 0, 1, 9, 2, 4, 5, it's duplicating that data 2 times, and the order is maintained with the Boolean here, and the order here is not maintained with Boolean here. So you can take a look at how that data changes as well. And I will correct this again with a Control-Shift and pull this up. And I'll continue to do that as we work through here to show that I've actually looked at each thing. Calling indexes are great, and using gene pool is like a multiple number slider that you can go in and customize how many gene count you want and what do those numbers range from, and are there decimals, which is very nice. So I can take these numbers that are coming out here as a called index, and if I was close to the numbers I wanted, you can kind of optimize it by changing it by 1%. It might change it, 10% might change it, and 100% is certainly going to blast and change it. and the gene pool I use here as well. I just think it's a great data tool prior to getting an optimization, generative methods, or AI making decisions for you. You still have a lot of control, but you feel like, I like the name gene pool, because kind of feel like a chemist sitting at a desk playing around with some petri dishes and having fun with what's being generated. The call index is the same, with a frequency of calling out something on a certain called frequency, and then a repeat data is something that I've seen used in many cases in scripts to get the data to do things that you want it to do. Now, once again, this is not dealing geometrically, but what I'm doing is I'm really trying to train the architect, designer, engineer, artist, whatever, jeweler, to think that beyond the solids you're working with, those surfaces are driven by curves, which are driven by points, which are driven by point attributes, and let's get to the numbers to really drive that. Once again, I kind of covered down here. I didn't use the sequence. I can't believe I actually didn't even put the sequence node in here, and it's called list sequence. So you might want to come down here and grab a sequence node, see what we're dealing with hang on a second. I want to grab the sequence series, which is the notation. Let's see if there's a character sequence here. There was our range, there was our series, and definitely the sequence node if you want to start using it. And I would highlight on it, because I really don't use it that often. It generates a sequence number from a notation, which is asking for text base values, to a length, which is an integer value, and then a decimal to be the initial of the list. And that gets into a whole other animal of controlling your data. So don't let it throw you this sequence named what the sequence node is. And if you actually are driving your data by point attributes or numbers, I think you could probably stay to the series and range node to start. I might do an advanced tutorial on the sequence node, but I think it's just funny and strange that I left it completely out. I'm going to grab this and I'm going to say group again, because I've had a look at it. I am going to change the color to that wonderful blue that I like. So, kind of Wickerson's given a little star check on it, so that's a pretty cool script. I also, anything I brought into it new, I'll probably just go here and do a little update. And even though that won't match the file you have, you can see the file that I've changed to as a new derivative. So thanks very much for watching. I'm getting these down a little bit under 10 minutes, which is nice. And we'll see how many we can fly through today. I'm going to actually try before next week to get through the remaining, I believe, 42 or 43 odd support tutorials for this, so we can have an open discussion and live discussions, more like a lab online for anyone interested, anytime, anywhere. I'm here to assist. Thanks very much.